Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us for tonight's Wave News Extra live stream. Don't know if you notice sometimes these smaller details of when our SkyTrack cameras will zoom in a little closer to see these shots. It's a little bit of a tighter frame if we look here at the Cross Bridge traffic, but still appreciating that downtown skyline from there, Jeffersonville. And pay attention to that thermometer because, we've been talking about at least trying to enjoy the later part of our nights above freezing. Well, there's the dip back into that territory that I don't think most people are happy to have to contend with. So hopefully you're staying warm as we do wrap up our Wednesday. I'm Jose Sosaya, as always, here to break down some of the stories we've been working on. And this is, an opportunity for you all, wherever you might be with your smart devices or just catching up and at your homes with the different ways you can connect with Wave Now or on the wave3.com homepage or the live stream. But just so you can get another sense of the stories that, have been you're taking up all our time in reporting and covering and then sharing this information with you over the course of the day, and to understand that we're also still working into the night to keep reporting and talk about the stories we're going to have for you on the late night newscast at around 11 o'clock. We're going to begin with sort of these words of praise in this last check-in with LMPD's chief. Paul Humphrey actually talking specifically about this investment already paying off into their drone technology as a police department, $1 million. This was set aside to invest in this in 2025 in what's called the DFR, the Drone as First Responder Program. Wave News reporter David Mattingly is going to walk us through some cases where the chief will say that not only was the use of a drone critical in coming to a safe ending, in theory, catching suspects with no harm posed to them or police officers, but then perhaps raising the questions of where else a drone as a first responder could be used.
Watch as late at night, a burglary suspect runs out of Doss High School. A drone launched by an officer at the scene immediately reveals the suspect's location. The drone records the moment the suspect is apprehended and even pinpoints evidence hidden in the snow.
This is just absolutely taken off for us. It's a piece of technology that we thought was going to be beneficial, but we are already seeing it pay off in dividends.
And Chief Paul Humphrey wants to see more of this. There are 14 drones like the one that flew over Doss High School being rotated among what Humphrey estimates as a couple of dozen officers that are trained to pilot them on location. And Humphrey wants to double their number to provide 24-hour coverage in every LMPD division.
These are tools for us. These are tools for us to be able to take bad people off the street and do it in a safer way.
That issue of safety played out on drone recorded video, January 22nd. This drone, part of MetroSafe's DFR, Drone as First Responder program, is equipped with thermal imaging and was able to spot a shooting suspect hiding at night behind a bush. We see officers and a police dog close in on the suspect, and then he's arrested without anyone getting hurt.
These things have happened forever, but to be able to have that added layer of technology that gives us those eyes is a very important tool that makes it safer not only for the officers, but it makes it safer for the suspects as well.
Our David Mattingly reporting there. Now, for context, if you're curious at all about, who runs a DFR, because it is a novel program, it's worked out as a partnership, but it's mostly handled through MetroSafe, handled by them, and police, LMPD, LFD, Louisville Fire has also applied this drone technology in certain cases recently where they've felt it was necessary, needed to also protect certain, first responders involved. And the drones that are launched by officers in the field, they actually have, offer a resource for the chief that, as you're going to hear, and we'll continue to report on what other kinds of emergency calls this could be used when time will be of the essence. And so, it's still a novel program, so we'll see how perhaps that will continue to be leveraged. And in the meantime, LMPD also talking about the the data, but they're acknowledging that there has been an increase in non-fatal shootings. So shootings, yes, but they're not deadly. And the department says they've actually had 20 victims so far this year. So we're talking 2026 compared to the 13 that were tracked as these cases of people who were shot this time through the same time frame last year in 2025. So there you've got 7 more over the course of one year to the next. Here's Deputy Chief Emily McKinley with LMPD talking about why at least they had, as an agency, believe some of these shootings are not becoming the worst case scenarios leading to someone's death.
So these are non-fatal. So these are instances where people survive. These did not turn into homicides. And I think that can be attributed to officers' quick response to a lot of these scenes. And then the medical care that officers are giving in the field and are trained to give in the field.
But moving ahead, LMPD does acknowledge they're going to look into why they are seeing and why this uptick is occurring. And so we will continue to report on that as well. Looking to some business before Frankfurt, and there's going to be so much of that that's still very relevant to you folks at home. Some of that pertinent to changes in power dynamics to JCPS as a school district, for example. Others, impacting every other kind of aspect of civil society. There is one bill coming out of committee, the House Judiciary Committee in Kentucky. It's called 305. The name that its moniker, is an honor for is the Crystal Rogers Act. You understand how much of a story that has been ever since she disappeared and last year through the murder trials. But this bill in Crystal Rogers' memory has made it out of committee this morning. Her own family was there for the hearing. They hope that this bill strengthens the procedures when it comes to grand juries by preventing anybody who is there at a grand jury hearing from knowingly recording what's going on and then sharing any information gathered while they're present during that proceeding. It would expand actually the statute of limitations if someone is accused of doing so from just a simple year from the accused date of the crime or the instance, from 1 year to 10 years. Crystal Rogers' mom, Sherry Ballard, talking to committee members today about how a law like this, she believes, could have helped her own family.
I just feel that the 1 year statute of limitation is not compliable with something as important as a grand jury hearing. And I can only pray that each of you can only imagine what my family has been through. And I'm asking each of you to support House Bill 305 and that you know how very important this bill is to me.
So the measure, again, intended to prevent that sharing of information that supporters argue could jeopardize, the investigations into these cases. They could impact judicial confidence as a term, so over the integrity of the judicial process in a matter like this, and then also re-traumatize families who had lost their loved ones. But again, this bill 305, it is now moving to the full House to be considered. So you're hearing the momentum behind this bill. It is gaining some steam, but it still has some layers left to go. There's another bill making its way through Kentucky's legislature that would give more authority, not to any old superintendent. It would apply depending on the size and the scope of the districts itself. It would establish this authority granted to JCPS's superintendent, for example, and then limit oversight powers for the Board of Education. Now, the state Senate, we have reported, yes, it had enough of the votes to approve it, get it out of the chamber to pass this bill. But Wave News reporter Fernando Garcia Francescini is explaining tonight for us, there are some locals, so within Jefferson County, the district involved, but there are education leaders who are arguing and they're worried about the impact that this kind of law would have, not just on students, but also on families. And so here is the update on where we know where the bill stands as far as in the process. But here's what Fernando was able to add to his report with these worries and concerns.
We spoke with District 3 board member James Craig, and he says he doesn't believe tweaks to JCPS's governance model is a way to increase student outcomes. Senate Bill 1 would give the JCPS superintendent the power to handle operations and management and would take that away from the school board. Instead, the school board would be in charge of long-term strategies. Board member James Craig says he has serious concerns when it comes to the bill, like the proposal for a supermajority requirement. So a superintendent's proposal would automatically become policy for the district unless 5 out of 7 board members veto the measure. He says lawmakers should consider some of the most recent big issues JCPS has dealt with, like the current budget crisis. Craig says those problems could have been prevented if there was better oversight of the superintendent.
We trusted the superintendent, and those were the outcomes that we got. Now, granting more authority and preventing us from exercising that oversight in the future is not going to prevent similar challenges from erupting in the future.
Senator David Givens says Senate Bill 1 would help JCPS in the long run and wouldn't damage the relationship between the superintendent and the school board. The bill received 29 votes in favor and 7 against in the Kentucky State Senate. Fernando Garcia, Francis Cheney, Wave News.
All right, thanks to Fernando for that update as well. All right, we're going to take we're going to take the first quick break of this live stream to reset, bring you some more of the stories, the top updates we in the Wave News room are working on to break those down for you and just give you the latest update as we're winding down our Wednesday, February 4th. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with much more of the live stream after this. We are back here with Wave News Extra from the Now studio. Always appreciate you folks connecting with us, whether, you've been, part of the viewing group here for some time ever since we've started this, whether that's doing that from the comfort of home on the Wave Now apps, which you download, or here on the live stream or on our website, wave3.com. All excellent ways to get connected, different ways to break down some of the stories that we're covering, not just, by the way, on the Kentucky side of things, but also at Southern Indiana. And this does include sometimes those stories that are just so tragic and heartbreaking by nature, and now in the pursuit of justice, because after more than a year of plea deals we've reported on, the sentences that came from some of that, there is a suspect, if you remember, in the 2024 Harvest Homecoming shooting. Well, he is now officially going to have his trial. This is a panel of jurors. They've been selected and sworn in. As Isaiah Page is accused of murder, of shooting and killing Bryce Gerlach at this festival. And 12 other people we know have been sentenced in some way, shape, or form to what happened in this fight that turned into a shootout. A reminder that sometimes, we work our best with the tools we have. And This is a visual medium. You guys are tuning in on the live stream, just hoping to see what we're able to then feed back to you, if that's photos, videos, phone calls, sounds, anything that's recorded. Sometimes in matters of trials and court hearings and proceedings, the judge could set those rules where we're just not able to bring that camera that is part of what we do to try to tell you the story. But the next best thing we can do is write down, document what is going on, and then relay what we're there to witness sometimes ourselves. And so with that, Wave News reporter Logan Perrone, he actually sat in an auxiliary courtroom today, so outside of the main space, as it were, as prosecutors and Page's defense were giving their many opening statements as, again, this jury selection process finalized.
With the first murder trial in the deadly 2024 Harvest homecoming shooting set to begin, a panel of 15 jurors was sworn in on Wednesday. They will decide whether to convict 19-year-old Isaiah Page with murder in the shooting death of 18-year-old Bryce Gerlach. As the panel was finalized, both the prosecution and defense laid out previews of their cases. Floyd County Prosecutor Chris Lane told the panel their argument will showcase that the evidence points to Page being guilty of murder, even if Gerlach was not who he meant to shoot. Lane also told jurors they will prove there was a gang affiliation through media, notes, and testimony, including from people who were with Page the night of the shooting. 4 other defendants in this shooting took plea deals requiring them to testify in any trials related to it. Co-defense attorney Coy Travis previewed his case, starting by saying silence speaks volumes. Page's defense team told the panel they will argue about gaps in the evidence, leaving questions unanswered. They plan to argue there is not enough evidence to convict Page of murder. After 3 days of jury selection, the final 3 jurors were seated Wednesday. During dismissal and attorney strikes, microphones allowing us to listen in the auxiliary room were muted, leaving it unclear if the prosecution, defense, or Judge Carrie Stiller removed potential jurors from the panel and for what reason. As the jurors were dismissed, we counted 12 men and 3 women, nearly all of them white. Opening statements are scheduled for 9 a.m. The prosecution will then present its case. They plan to start with 2 to 3 witnesses, including the first officer who responded to the shooting.
And that was our Logan Perrone's work there. In fact, another tidbit, this is the documentation that Logan wrote down, was he noticed that after the jury was dismissed on Wednesday, he saw, the state, the prosecutors involved, Page's defense team, and Judge Stiller, who's presiding over the case, they were discussing what's a term that's called transfer of intent. The prosecution actually brought this up. So, and we won't say that this is, from myself, coming from the legal analyst background, but in essence, in the reporting, we do. So it's the legal theory that would hold a defendant liable for harm done to someone, even if they weren't the person who someone intended to harm. But so you might hear this phrase be brought up again as we report, and this is sort of the legal theories that will be discussed in Page's trial, a transfer of intent. So something to consider as we'll continue to report on all this. What we're going to play for you next is a bit of some interviews we did a little earlier in the afternoon. The first is going to be from former Indiana U.S. Representative Congressman Barron Hill, the other from current State Senator Wendy Dan Chesser. But in the context of them reflecting on the life of former Indiana Congressman Lee Hamilton, who died, a 17-term congressman who served this district that covers much of Floyd County, if not most, from 1965 to 1999. He died at the age of 94. So in this first part, you're going to hear perhaps part of this interview I did with Barron Hill and later Wendy Dan Chesser talking. But in essence, these are all, in some ways, members of Hamilton's political coalition of the same, party affiliations. In Barron Hill's case, he succeeded Hamilton in that same seat to Congress. But Hill is talking about how, as a mentor, his predecessor helped him greatly in transitioning into the role. And Dan Chesser talking about how much of a statesman Hamilton was during his career.
Lee was humble about being a member of Congress and never forgot who sent him there. And, I've been in parades with Lee before, and it was amazing how he knew names of people all across the district in the small towns of Southern Indiana. He never lost sight of who he represented, and he knew their names as well. And I think that's the reason why people returned him to office after 34 years. I talked to him all the time. He advised me on on issues that were important to the people of the 9th District. And the thing he would always remind me of, he said, Barron, never get too big for your own shoes. Remember your constituents and who you represent in Southern Indiana. And that's a lesson that I took to heart, because Lee was really good at making sure that even though he was a very prestigious member of Congress, he never lost sight of who he represented.
I would hope that all officials, elected, appointed, or even those leaders that choose to be active, I would hope that we all look to him as a model for our future behavior. And I can bring it to the State House, we can bring it to City Hall, we can bring it to our county meetings, but I think most importantly, it starts in the mirror. And so if I can look myself in the mirror and think, I am being held to an example of Lee Hamilton, how am I doing on that? And I'll be a better legislator, and I would imagine most of us would be better leaders in general if we started our days that way.
We've yet to confirm any funeral arrangements. That information hasn't been released just yet, but we do know Indiana Governor Mike Braun has ordered flags be flown at half-staff in honor of Lee Hamilton. Another big name in wave country politics, Kentucky's senior U.S. senator, and it turns out after feeling flu-like symptoms again earlier in the week, we've learned Senator Mitch McConnell is still in the hospital getting the care that his office says he needs. This is not the first time, of course, the senator has had to go to a hospital in recent years, but there is some updates from McConnell's office, a spokesperson saying the quote, prognosis for this is positive, that he wants to get back to Senate business. 83-year-old McConnell already is one of the oldest sitting senators. He's been in office since 1985, but he is retiring at the end of this term coming up in 2027. This is why the Senate race, you will see that ramping up closer to the general election in November of this year of 2026. McConnell had already stepped down as Senate Republican leader in November of 2024. Throughout February, we are going to continue to highlight some very interesting stories and local ties as we, reflect on Black History Month. Wave News already, is committed to highlighting these historical advances, contributions from African-American luminaries in our community. It stretches and runs the gamut from civil rights and breaking down educational barriers to incredible feats in sports, education, and beyond. And there's a team sort of, leading the charge on the stories. We want to, go through the archives and remind you that they are a part of the fabric of where we live. Meteorologist Tawana Andrew takes us to a historic Black neighborhood in southern Indiana.
This is 60 Seconds of Black History.
Welcome to 60 Seconds of Black History. In 1856, Claysburg became Jeffersonville, Indiana's largest Black community. The historic Black neighborhood is located near the border of Clarksville, north of downtown Jeffersonville, and close to the 10th Street corridor. This land was annexed in 1948. Until that time, it was an area on the city's northern edge where free Black residents would settle. Claysburg schools were segregated with separate white and colored schools. Other institutions were also segregated, including many restaurants and public accommodations that refused service to African Americans. The area got its name after Kentucky abolitionist Cassius Clay. In 2020, a new mural was put up as an affirmation of the community's identity. It includes area landmarks, a community garden, and the Louisville skyline. For nearly 30 years, Claysburg Days has been a beloved summer tradition in Lansing Park, bringing together neighbors and friends for a weekend of fun, food, and festivities.
And our thanks to Tawana for breaking that story down. It's still fascinating, even if it is in a very distilled 60 seconds. And we're going to keep sharing a lot of these stories through the course of February. Here we are, another live look at our downtown skyline through the SkyTrack camera. And you could tell perhaps some of those reflections coming off of the Ohio River, that ice, still quite a pickle for boats and any kind of river traffic, as it were. And we're not getting rid of the cold just yet. So make sure to join us a little later tonight around Wave News at 11. Until then, we're going to take this break from the live stream to reset with our last batch stories here on Wave News Extra. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, folks, into Wave News Extra, just crossing that half-hour mark, and I hope you all are staying warm as, it's hard for me to ignore sometimes reading that thermometer gauge from where we do have that come into the Wave storm tracking team, 24 degrees. Stay warm out there, and we'll be discussing, like I said, the storm tracking team is going to break down, and we can look forward to some, at least, maybe the warmer is still further out in our 10-day forecast, but sunnier, nicer days for our weekend, on top of it, of course, being Super Bowl weekend. We're going to discuss, you'll see a theme perhaps with a lot of animal stories coming up in this block. The first is going to start with some pretty serious accusations being brought by the group. You've likely heard of them. It's PETA, so they're the animal rights group, but they're actually calling for a very specific, let's call it a concession from Churchill Downs. They're actually calling for a specific jockey to be banned from the Kentucky Derby. So the claim they're making, the animals rights group, is that Paco Lopez, who had been previously suspended for whipping violations on horses, they're making the claim that Lopez has repeatedly broken rules at racetracks in Louisiana. So PETA claiming Lopez has been documented hundreds of times, lifting his arm far above his helmet to, as they describe it, quote, violently strike the horses. The group sent a letter to Churchill Downs asking them to prevent Lopez from competing in this year's Derby, and then to also wipe out any previous Kentucky Derby points that were earned by the horses that he rode as a jockey. PETA going so far as to also file a formal complaint with the Louisiana Racing Commission, and then urging also for them to revoke Lopez's license and investigate why stewards did not act on the animal's behalf. The group claims, again, Lopez whipped a horse 7 times in a Kentucky Derby qualifying race. I was hoping the video would play for you all. Let's see if I can get that to play again. Just want to make sure we can finish that as far as the video is concerned. Unfortunately, technology, sometimes it does not want to play by the rules there. But again, so PETA making all these allegations, and what I was talking about was the allegations of a horse being struck 7 times in a qualifying race that exceeds Louisiana's 6-strike limit when it comes to horse racing. So what does come of it? We're not sure. We're reaching out to Churchill Downs to see if they would comment on exactly what the next steps would be, or what the investigation and due diligence would imply. So we'll make sure to check up on that for sure. Now to another story in the realm of taking care of horses and equine sport. There's a program out in Shelbyville, started in 2009, and it's still growing. It's a couple who met out in California. They wanted to bring this to Kentucky because they bought their farm in Shelby County and focusing on equine therapy. This is a report from Drew Ammon, and we're going to share that with you tonight.
It's just amazing.
Tucked away on Baghdad Road in Shelbyville. Grateful to work on this farm. Chris Bruner describes his experience at horse fencing.
To have the opportunity to teach the guys, and, that's a challenge itself.
Bruner faced his own challenges. He found horse fencing's 9-month program after 15 months of addiction.
I got on drugs, man, and I knew I needed help. I didn't know how to get it.
Enter Dr. Sally Broder. and her husband, David, Horse Sensing co-founders, benefiting from Bruner's work as the program's education director.
I could say to him a few months ago, I wish that you could see in you what we see in you. And now he's starting to see that in himself.
That story, Bruner's journey, shows this organization's impact. Horse Sensing's residential treatment and therapeutic job training and placement program helped 29 veterans and men in recovery in 2025. A prime example of the human-horse connection.
It helps them, it helps the horses. If they have a bad day, they can come down here when nobody's here and come and hug on the horse they like. And the horse takes all that stuff out.
Trainer Brady Moore sums up Horse Sensing's program.
You know, we have people that's coming off the streets, they're coming out of rehabs, they're coming out of jail, and they have nothing, absolutely nothing.
Bruner is well aware. Horse Sensing, from Chris's perspective,
I've always said it's the best in the state. This program really works.
And that was reporter Drew Ammon there. Something very fascinating to consider. And the subject now with, you know, what horses mean to so many folks across Kentucky in a myriad of ways that they are part of this human-animal interaction. Looping back into Churchill Downs real quick, for the first time since 2010, Sunday racing is going to come back to kick off Derby Week. The organizers say this is going to give the community an extra day to celebrate this seasonal festival of fun with brunch around the track. The post time for that Sunday program would be 12:45 in the afternoon. Reminder, the tickets for Kentucky Derby Week and all of the spring meet at Churchill Downs are going to go on sale tomorrow at noon. So, moving from the horse section of tonight's last bit of Wave News Extra, we're going to shift to not just the big game coming up over the weekend, but how there's going to be a Kentucky presence when it comes to this national program to shine a light on pet adoption, especially from shelters. And yes, fans, we know you get excited for the Super Bowl, more so if it is one of your teams playing, but even if not, you'd be tuning in. But fans can also tune in to watch the Puppy Bowl. It's 2 dogs from the Kentucky Humane Society that are actually going to join in on the fun this year. And there's places, for example, locally, like PG&J's Dog Park Bar. They are going to host a watch party for the Puppy Bowl, for that particular bit of sporting contest. Wave News reporter Kirsten Foote is here to share a preview with us.
Well, the big game is this weekend, but I'm more of a Puppy Bowl fan myself. And thank goodness there is going to be a place where I can watch this year's Puppy Bowl. That's PG&J's Dog Park Bar. And that is where we are right now. And I'm here with Jen Harris from the Kentucky Humane Society. We have some fun friends with us.
We
Broccoli
do.
and Brussels sprout.
Yeah, they are so sleepy right now, but I promise you they are very pumped for the big game on Sunday for the Puppy Bowl.
And you guys have dogs competing in the Puppy Bowl again this year for the second time. Winona and Showgirl.
Yes, they are so cute. Winona is a little Shih Tzu mix, and Showgirl is a Chow Chow mix. They are so adorable. They are representing Team Fluff this year on Animal Planet's Puppy Bowl, and you can tune in and watch it at 2 p.m. on Sunday, or you can come visit PG&J's. We're doing a watch party at 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., and it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun activities going on, and we're super excited for it.
Yeah, and they're not here right now with us because they're getting ready for the big game. So that's why we got Broccoli and Brussels sprout
prep
here.
to do. They're ready to take it all on the field.
Absolutely. So second year that you guys have puppies competing in the Puppy Bowl. What does that mean to you guys?
It's so important. We love getting the recognition and just getting those shelter pups out. They get to have a fun time at the Puppy Bowl, and it's really awesome seeing people come back from that and, choose to adopt or foster or volunteer. And it means a lot for our shelter animals at KHS.
Yeah, and it highlights the Puppy Bowl is all the dogs that are in the Puppy Bowl are adoptable dogs. They come from shelters, so it really puts a kind of a highlight on that too.
Absolutely.
There's even going to be some dogs that have been here at the Puppy Bowl watch party. They've gotten adopted, and they're going to come back.
Have some alumni here. I think that's so special. It just means the world to us that they get to come back and watch their predecessors on the TV It's going to be a great time.
Definitely. And for just one more time for a reminder, when is the watch party?
That is Sunday, February 8th from 1 to 4 p.m. right here at PG&J's.
And you don't need a dog to come. You can just come.
No, yes, you can come with or without a dog.
And you can leave with a dog too.
Yes, absolutely. We will have puppies there. They might not be these two. They might get adopted before then, but we will have adoptable puppies there.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness. We are so excited to cheer on Team Fluff, right?
Yeah.
Team Fluff, go Team Fluff. Back to you.
I would say Kirsten had too much fun, but that might be the understatement. But I can appreciate for all of you folks out there joining us, by the way, you can comment on the live stream. You can open the floodgates of saying just how much you love your respective pets. Again, these are images of the two pups that are going to be representing Kentucky. Here you see Winona and Showgirl on Team Fluff. And the programming time is interesting. You can fill up your Sunday because the Puppy Bowl is Sunday at 2 p.m. There's still time well before the actual Super Bowl action will start. That is something you wanted to add to your programming. A reminder, folks, this is the best way to get a hold of the latest stories. By the way, you can also always live stream us here on wave3.com for all the different streams and updates we do here in the Wave Now studio. But the latest breaking news stories, the forecast from the storm tracking team, anything from local investigative reports and updates from the troubleshooters and beyond, all here at your fingertips. And you can scroll and check in on all that it has to offer right there on wave3.com. And a reminder to also, if you haven't already, there's a way that you can get these updates sent straight to your devices. That's downloading the Wave News apps and the Wave Weather News apps, or weather apps for that, respectively. Appreciate your time, as always, as we're going to wrap up here in the Now studio. I invite you to check back in with us around Wave News at 11. Kevin going to let us know what's in store, getting closer to Super Bowl weekend. Still, whenever this cold is going to break, at least relatively, to get us into something warmer. And our reports from our two members of the newsroom work nights, Meredith Lee and Julia Richardson, both working hard to prepare what they've been reporting on to share that with you. All right. We're going to wrap up here. I'm Jose Susana. We'll see you back sometime tomorrow. Until then, take care.